Okay, so here's what I came up with for those concepts. And yours may look different. There are more than one way. There's more than one way to address a question. So look at your list. Look at my list. What do you need to add to your list? What are some things that I may have left off of my list that you think are relevant? That's all perfectly fine. I would pause the video here if I were you and take some time to look at this and make sure that you are understanding what types of things you are looking for on the specific concepts section of our plan. Okay. Is there a specific region being addressed? Okay, well, let's look at the question. All right, it says MDCs and LDCs. And if you are familiar with how this course works in the vocabulary, you know that MDCs and LDCs stands for more developed and less developed countries. There is no other region given. There's no other specific region given in the question, but you'll notice that I do have some examples already in my outline and in my plan of how I might address those things. Okay. Next question, is there a time frame given? Okay, go back to the question. No, there is not a time frame given. We'll put none. Finally, how many examples does the question ask for? Okay, so if we go back here, we have none mentioned in part A. We have none specifically mentioned in part B, but it looks like we have 3 specifically mentioned in part C. So remember that we are always going to have at least one example. Even if there is none given, we want at least one. So part A is going to have 1. Part B is going to have 2 because it wants MDCs and LDCs. So you should have an example for both. And then part C is going to have 3. So if we go back to our PowerPoint, there we have part A is 1, part B is 2, part C is 3. So at this point, you're going to need to account for 6 specific examples for each of these, for this question. Now, I want to point out something here. I have in parentheses the +1 rule. My rule that I give my students is for every example they ask for, always add 1 more. That way, if there's an example that's not good or you just aren't confident with it, you have another question or another example there. So, however, I want to stress, and this is very, very, very important, +1 rule only applies at the very end of the test if you have time. Do not add extra examples while you are writing your initial response to the question. Wait until the end when you've answered all 3 questions, then you can come back and spend some time adding in some examples if you need them. So the +1 rule is great, but use it at the end so that you do not take too much time on one question, and that prevents you from being able to move forward.